And, I call this cycle that we get trapped in the cycle of suck. So I'll teach this for everybody. It's really quick and simple. We start with intentions, whether it's losing weight, saving money, getting fit, recruiting people to our organization. We have those intentions. Then we take some actions. Yay, we're doing stuff. We're moving forward. And then inevitably, we encounter pain. There's going to be some amount of pain where, I called this agent and they hung up on me. And then they called my broker and complained that I was trying to recruit them. Like, ouch, you might not ever pick up the phone and talk to someone again if you have that experience.
All right, well, very good. Well, good morning. Welcome everybody to LabCoatAgents Nurture. And we have the expert of nurturing, Mr. Dan Stewart, who CEO Hapy Grasshopper. He's run that company for about the last 11 years, right, Dan?
That's correct. Yep.
And now presently he heads up LabCoat's LCA Nurture division. And today, you don't have to be a team leader. You don't have to be in the real estate field. And Dan's going to cover those things on this whole recruitment process and how it can benefit you, whatever industry you're in. So Dan Stewart, want to get us kicked off, my friend?
Yeah, I definitely do, Alvin. Thank you so much for the intro. And hi, everybody. Before we dive in, a couple of things. I'd love for you to chime in the chat. Let me know you can see me and hear me. Like, is this thing on? I don't even know. Say hello, somebody, so that I know you're out there. That would be cool. And let me set the stage here. Thanks, Jake. I see he's in Ventura. That's cool. Jana, Catherine, Crystal, Mary, Ruby, Steven. Got a bunch of people here. More people are coming in. I'm excited about today because I get to teach one of my very favorite topics. Okay, so who should be here? That's a good question. The title is I Heart Recruitment. So maybe some of the people who are attending right now run their own brokerages. Maybe they have teams, or maybe they're agents who would simply like to learn to attract other people to join them in their brand. So whichever one of those you may be, I have content today that's going to help you do that. And I'm super excited to dig in. Now, thank you, Ruby. Good morning. We're going to set the stage here the right way. So let's think about recruitment from a high level for a moment. If you're a managing broker, it's that neglected chore that is super important that you probably don't find enough time to get around to, right? And when you do get around to it, it's making a bunch of cold calls where most people don't want to talk to you. And the few people who do are the kind of people who weren't happy where they are. They're likely not going to be happy once they join you, right? So there's got to be a different way, right? Why does recruitment have to be this frustrating thing that, it just feels like a chore you don't want to do? It's the sink full of dirty dishes that no one wants to wash, when it could be literally the most awesome thing that you do in your entire life. And, I'm going to step back here and tell you a little bit of a personal story to give this some context. I have the privilege, the luck, the good fortune, the blessing of being in my labor of love phase. So I sold my previous company over a decade ago. I tried that whole retirement thing. I did not like it. So I started Hapy Grasshopper as a fun project. And, over those years, I've had the privilege of building relationships with thousands and thousands of agents all across the country. And Alvin, how cool is it? We discover this in 2 minutes of talking with each other for the first time. You are right across the hall from Laurel Starks. If she's in Tampa and she's not staying on my couch, I'm mad at her, right? Yeah. I love that person. Relationships are what's so special in life. And, if you can think about recruitment not being this chore of, I've got to find people who fit, but how can I assemble this really amazing group of human beings that I feel privileged to get to hang out with? Well, the perspective changes, right? Everything changes there. And that's where we're going to start. That's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And as I do that, I just want to remind you that I will keep my eyeballs peeled on the chat box the whole time. So will Alvin. If you ask a question in the chat, we're going to see it. We're going to make sure that it gets answered before the end of the session. I also want to prep you. If you're here today to learn about LCA Nurture and how you can use that, just go to the link that Jake put in the chat. This is not a session to teach you about LCA Nurture. This is a session to help you look at recruitment from an entirely different perspective. So I'm going to share my screen and welcome to my Mac desktop. Is that popped up? Are you seeing that all right, Alvin?
We're good. Yep, that looks good.
All right, perfect. And now we're going to start the slideshow where we get to see our ugly mugs all over the screen. Look at that.
Yikes.
Boom.
So early in the morning. That is too early in the morning to see that.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm a goal-driven guy. Like, you might imagine that as somebody who started a bunch of different companies. So every time I have the privilege to teach a class, I come with a goal. And my goal today is to help each and every one of you figure out how to get, serve, and keep not just any people, but great people now and in the future in every market condition. Okay, so to do that, to accomplish that, I'm going to rely on my experience, more than 20 years of being an entrepreneur. And I'm going to show you real life use case examples where organizations like Live Real Estate, these are clients up in Edmonton, Canada. They went from, a handful of agents. I think there were about 17. The goal was to add 25 over the course of 12 months. And they got there in just 2, right? So think about that. Like, it doesn't have to be the slog that takes forever for you to get to a goal. There is a better way to do it, a more possible way for you to do it that creates really great results if you learn a few key distinctions. And to do that, we've got to start with signal versus noise. Okay. So think about this. Every day of our lives, we're exposed to messages that we're not asking for. Like, Alvin, any idea how many ads you're going to see today? It's a big number.
Oh, gosh. Over 100, maybe over 100.
It's a big number. It's a big number. And this chart here, this is from a study that's tracked our exposure to media and ads over generations. And what we're seeing here is that, throughout our lifetimes, we're really devoting a lot of our lives to consuming media. How often do we spend ourselves whiling away those moments looking at our phone, watching TikTok or Instagram, right? We're spending hours and hours and hours per day engaged in consumption of media. And over the course of our lives, we're consuming so much media that we're actually spending over 30 years in an average lifespan doing nothing but consuming content. Like, give me a wow, OMG in the chat if you're surprised by that stat. That is absolutely huge, right? It's absolutely huge. And to think that it's, thanks, Alvin, I love the OMG. To think that we're not, or to think that we're doing this without a consequence is a mistake, right? This is actually changing the way our brains are wired, right? Now, we have a choice here. We can attempt to disconnect and unplug, which, being human beings, that's not something we're likely to do. So what we really need to do to be effective with recruitment is understand that we need a new framework. Like, we can't just send another message along with all those other messages and expect ours to get through, right? Like, we got a lot of people here from different brands. Alvin, you're with KW. Somebody else might be with EXP. Another person with Coldwell Banker or Better Homes and Gardens, or like all these different brands. And every brand is really trying to argue why people should go with that brand. They're trying to get you to make that choice. And, the sad part is that, like, we'll use EXP as an example. You've probably heard the EXP story. You've probably been approached by someone who's telling you that story. And pretty soon it gets hard to hear that story, right? So if you're listening to this and you're with EXP, It doesn't mean you don't still have a great story, right? It just means you need to tell it in a different way. And that goes the same for any brand that you might with, whether it's your own brand as an independent or one that you've joined as an agent or broker. So I'm going to encourage you to think of recruitment, not so much as that slog of, oh, I got to go find people. Where do I get them? But think of it as the process of exit and arrival, right? Exit and arrival. Does that make sense, Alvin?
Exit and arrival. So
Yeah.
that first slide I want to comment is I like what you said about you need a new framework, especially with all that noise. I said over 100. Holy cow. I was wrong by like 200 ads, but the idea of needing a new framework that resonated in my head just immediately.
We need a new framework to get through it.
Yeah.
And this is that framework. The framework of exit and arrival is what works. So I'm going to break it down so that each of you can apply it. The exit part, that's when we receive a signal in our lives that tell us we've outgrown where we are, we're ready for change. Arrival is what happens when we engage with someone, when we start to imagine ourselves in that new opportunity, that new thing. And, like I'll give you an example. I'm not a car guy, Alvin. I'm not a car guy. I'm super happy personally with my 2015 Subaru. I love it like a comfortable pair of shoes. I have no desire to change that car whatsoever. And it doesn't matter how much Mercedes or Porsche or any brand sends me stuff in the mail. Go ahead, invite me to the Audi exclusive event cocktail party. I'm not going to go because I'm not interested in spending my money on a new vehicle. Right? I'm just not susceptible to that advertising, just like most agents are not susceptible to recruitment just because you need to add people to your firm, right? They make those changes on their own time frame. So rather than trying to convince them that you have the better mousetrap, you need to help them internally realize that it's time to make that change. Okay. So sticking with my car example, what might work for me is if I got a call from someone and I needed to drive them somewhere, right? The right person could influence me to change my car. I could afford a new car. I just don't want one, right? But maybe Tristan and Nick call me and they say, Dan, we're coming to Tampa. Can you pick us up at the airport and we'll go out to dinner? Maybe that's a signal that tells me it's time to make a change for my car. In reality, no. Like Tristan and Nick, we're tight. I'm totally comfortable with who I am. But you get the idea, right? There's something that would allow me to decide it's time to make that change. And when you understand that people make those decisions in very predictable ways, you can change your messaging to get the result that you want. I'll let that sink in. When you understand that people make these decisions in very predictable ways, you can change your messaging to get the result you want, right? So let's imagine this human brain again. We live in a society where we're all exposed to the same media, right? We watch the same movies. We watch the same sporting events. Like who's going to watch Super Bowl? Probably a lot of us, right? Because we're exposed to these things, we have identical pathways in our brains. And I'm going to attempt to demonstrate that for you. So I'm going to put up an image and I want you to call out in the chat for me. And Alvin, I just want you to tell me what the first thing that comes to mind is. Okay, we ready for this?
Let's do it.
Here we go. Whoops. They're just advancing. Stop. Okay, so I mucked that up there a little bit. I mucked that up a little bit, but what came to mind for you?
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Okay. Now, I've done this in front of live audiences. And in fact, I taught this class at the Georgia Association of Realtors annual convention. And to hear hundreds of people say Star Wars at the same time makes an impact. Now, the screen does not say Star Wars. It says the hero's journey.
Right.
And that's important because the hero's journey is what takes place inside Star Wars, right? The hero's journey takes place in hundreds of movies we consume in our lifetime. So, think about Luke when we meet him. He's an orphan. He lives with his aunt and uncle. He dreams of a life he doesn't have access to until he meets this bearded stranger who introduces him to a whole new world, right?
Right.
Now, Harry Potter is exactly the same story. He's an orphan. He lives with his aunt and uncle. He dreams of a life he doesn't have access to until he meets a bearded stranger that introduces him to a whole new world. Now, whether it's a new film or it's an old film, the same things apply. Look at the Karate Kid. If Daniel-san doesn't meet Mr. Miyagi, he's still getting his butt kicked every day, right?
Right.
Now, what I want you to consider is that what all of this exposure to the same story over and over and over has done is it's left every member of our society with a sincere, concrete belief that if we had a better guide, we'd have better results. Like, where's my Obi-Wan? Where's my Hagrid? Where's my Mr. Miyagi? Right? Do you think you could be a better agent with a better leader? Of course. That's why people invest in coaching, right? Now, if you're going to effectively recruit people, if you're going to effectively attract them to you and your brand, you must become the guide. That's what you have to do, is assume that role of guide. And more specifically, you have to know the type of guide that you need to be. So, we've got two types here on the screen. Think about Obi-Wan in that first movie. He shows up at the beginning and then he's not around at the end. Like, a lot of corporate recruiters are Obi-Wans. Come to my brand. We're awesome. Hey, how you doing, Alvin? What's going on, man? Is everything great? Yeah, just wanted to touch base. Hey, we're growing. Are you ready to join us over at XYZ? That'd be awesome. Oh, you're not? Okay. All right. And then you hear from them again, hear from them again, hear from them again. At some point, maybe you make the change and then you never hear from that recruiter again. Poof, they're gone. They've evaporated.
You know what, Dan, if I can interrupt real quick.
Sure.
To that point about the noise and the repetition, there's some people that I respect in the industry, in our community, but they have us on their calendar. I can almost set my watch to when some of my local business owners in the industry are calling to make a recruitment call. And the thing is, what's really sad is that when they call me, they know me personally, I know them, who they are. They haven't changed their script. It's the same script they used 3 months ago, and they use the same one 3 months prior to that. It's always the same script. And to your point over the noise and changing the framework, it's like, it's the same thing they're sharing with me time after time after time.
Yeah, you got to change it up. You have to make it unique. And, think about it like this. Like, there are a lot of people recruiting agents who are walking around with the equivalent of an engagement ring in their pocket. And as soon as they see somebody who's got a license, they get down on one knee and they propose. Like, that's ridiculous. Oh, Alvin, you're in real estate. Have you heard of XYZ? Because we're awesome. You should definitely join. Like, no, we've just met. Buy me a drink first, right? Like, let's get to know each other. Let's see if there's a match here.
Yeah.
People forget that with recruitment. It's so easy to get focused on the numbers and then leave out the relationship, right? We don't want to do that. Now, many people who recruit are much more like Luke, right? You, Alvin, for example, if you want to grow your team, you're going to be involved with those people on the team on the daily, right? It's not like you're going to, forget they exist.
Absolutely.
You have to attract people who are really going to match with you, who are going to fit and be comfortable and love it and really feel like, they're the right recruit for you.
Right.
So,
right.
Knowing which type of these recruiters you actually are makes a big difference in the messaging that you choose. So, can I assume that you're a Luke here, Alvin? That makes sense?
You can assume that. Yeah.
I mean, that's true, right?
Yeah.
You would be much more like Luke than Obi-Wan.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, if you said, hey, I'd like to add 20 agents this year, you go, all right, you got a goal. That's great. But how do you fulfill it? What do you actually do? And, to achieve that goal, whether it's 20 or 200 or even 200 a month, we have to start by examining the terrain that recruitment takes place in. Right now, there are 3 elements of terrain. So if you're watching this, you want to write this down. First, you've got the geographical terrain. If you have an office location, there is a geographical limit within which you can attract people. Outside of that limit, they're just not going to make the trip. They won't do it. If you're with a brand where there is no office, you can attract people anywhere. One is not right, one is not wrong. It's just whichever the ones is present for you, it's going to change the way that you recruit. So first, understand that geography. That's element 1 of terrain. Second element is digital terrain. Where do you show up online? What do you look like when you do? Do you appear as someone who could be a guide? Do you appear aspirational? Are you doing things that people are going to say, wow, look at that? You know, all of those things are helpful recruitment levers. So you want to think about it. And then the third element of terrain, the one that's probably most important, is the psychological terrain. Okay. So let's think about the reality that you could recruit anyone with a license and the necessity that you don't, right? You must recruit people who are going to fit with you. You can ruin a great thing if you attract the wrong agents to it, right? And if you're young with your brand, like if you're establishing something new, you're going to be about those first people you attract. They're going to be your representatives. They're going to define what your brand or your team is. So you need to defend that. You need to protect it. So rather than just recruit anybody who's got a pulse and a license, I want you to think about your ideal recruit. You know, who is that person maybe you're already working with that you'd like to clone? Who is that person that you've done a couple of transactions with at another brokerage and they're just awesome? What is it that you like about them? What is it you like about people in general? You know, think about those people you meet. Some of them, after a conversation, you feel elated, like, whoa, what a great connection. And other people you meet and you're like, oh, I need a break. That was brutal. Whew. You know, you do not want to recruit people who drain you of your energy. Recruit people who feed you energy, who are awesome to serve. Right. So that's the first thing you must do, is get this image of exactly who it is that you would recruit in terms of their personality, in terms of their production level, in terms of their ability to collaborate with other people on the team, in terms of their positivity. It's up to you to define all of these things. And once you've made that list, you're going to start seeing people that fit in, right? Now, the really special part here is you've got to crawl around inside their brains. Okay. So let's imagine that ideal recruit, that person who is perfect for you. And then let's imagine, what is it that's preventing them from sleeping well? Why can't they sleep tonight? Why are they driving by a bar at 2 PM and wanting to pull over? Like, what is that issue that's under their skin that's causing them a lot of stress? Because that is the issue that you have to offer your leadership on, right? Think about when Obi-Wan met Luke. Like, the first time he's mentioned in the story, it's like, old Ben Kenobi, that old guy wandering around the desert. Like, there's no respect for him. The respect for him comes when he rescues Luke from what he's suffering from, right? So think about what your ideal agents are suffering from. You know, if your market is super low inventory, they're probably writing a lot of offers and not having very many accepted. Maybe they're a listing agent who's seeing that, you know, every buyer's agent is now trying to farm their neighborhood. Like, maybe they used to go on one listing appointment and sign it up, and now they're competing for every listing appointment. Like,
absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
Figure out, what are those stressors? What are those things that are under their skin? And then offer your leadership to them on those topics, right? Offering that leadership in the form of email, text message, ringless voicemail drops. There's lots of ways you can do that. And I'll give you some examples of that here in a moment. But, you know, first I've got to really establish for you that you're just another person trying to recruit them. You've got zero respect from them until you alleviate some present pain that they're experiencing. right? The moment that you do that, you're in the right to talk about their future.
And let me ask you something, Dan, on that point, what would
Mhm.
be a good question for someone wanting to recruit that can kind of bring that to surface to say, what is it? What is it that's
Yeah,
causing them some problems where
yeah.
they're currently
Well,
at?
so there's a whole group of messages that could be great for that. And we call those first contact messages. Now, a first contact message is much more diplomatic than the Star Wars universe, right? So I switched over to Star Trek here for that kind of example. Now, if I'm sending a cold message out to someone who doesn't know me, they're a colleague, right? They're another agent in my market. I might send something that's topical, that's current to something we're all experiencing, and start a conversation about it. Hey, Alvin, it's Dan Stewart over at XYZ. We've all been hearing lately about Zillow shutting down their iBuyer unit. A few of us have realized there's going to be some pretty cool opportunities from that in Q2 this year. I'm curious if you guys have spotted that too. All my best, Dan. Right?
That's
Now,
great.
what did that do? That elevated you as the recipient of the message. It assumes you're plugged in and and that you've seen this also, and you're thinking about ways to handle it, right?
Right.
It's not you should join us because of X and Y and Z.
It also, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, it also gives the example that when you ask that question, I believe that the person sending me the question seems to might know a little more than I do, and may be
yeah,
the person I really do need to engage with. I believe they can
that's
be a
right.
help to
Yep.
me and to my business. Am I correct on that?
It's about positioning yourself as the guide. And that example I gave you is designed exactly to do that. So, in crafting these messages, we have to consider, how is it that we're becoming aware of these people? Like, some people will advertise for agents. Mostly they're looking for brand new agents that can help get licensed. There's so many lists, and with service like Broker Metrics and Market View Broker and Realytics and so many others, I don't see a need personally to advertise to grow a real estate brokerage. I think having the right outbound messaging strategy, and I'm going to give you 3 examples here, like industry change, personal performance, and congratulations to your people. These are 3 really strong recruitment levers. So industry change is sort of that example I just gave you. There's lots of buzz around the water cooler about this change that's taken place. Find a way to ask a question about that. And people will go, gosh, I didn't know about this issue. Who is this guy sharing this with me? He's plugged in, right? Maybe they don't respond the first time, but at some point in the future, as they keep getting that type of messaging, they will, right? Now, if you're watching this and you're using Realytics or Broker Metrics or Market View Broker or Trend or any of the other services that provide performance data, you could even just observe it probably in your MLS. Sending a message of congratulations for their performance is a great icebreaker. Hey, Alvin, it's Dan over at XYZ. I was just reviewing the market stats. Looks like you're still crushing it. Congrats on a great January. All my best, Dan. Like,
Right.
no
Right.
recruitment message at all, right? Because before we get down on one knee and propose, we have conversations first.
Right.
Messages like these are what start conversations, give you that chance to build a relationship, and then decide whether or not you'd even be willing to invite that person. You got to have the right approach.
Right.
Now, number 3 is one of my favorites. This is one everyone should rip off and steal today. Do this today. If you have an agent in your brokerage on your team who's doing well, someone who represents the characteristics you'd like to see present in other people you're attracting, steal this message, right? So Alvin, I'll imagine that you're an agent in my brokerage in this scenario, right?
Okay.
So I'm going to post on Facebook, hey, everybody, please join me in congratulating Alvin. Wow, we're so impressed with this guy. From the moment we met, we knew he'd be a success because his heart is the size of Texas. The way he cares for his clients, the way he pays attention to what's going on in the market, the way he continues to invest in his own education. are all things that make him a winner. Is it any wonder he just pended his 4th transaction this month? Congratulations, Alvin, right? And then you tag a bunch of other people in the brokerage. That post gets some steam on social. And then you grab a link to that post and you email it to everyone that you might choose to recruit. And that post would simply say, hey, Alvin, wow, please join me in congratulating whoever's name that is, right? And then you put the nice, safe Facebook link, the LinkedIn link, wherever you've shared it, as an exposed naked link so they can see that it's not going some nefarious place, right? And people will click that link to go and see that post. So what that teaches the social media companies is that agents engage with your content, right? So who are they going to share more of your content with? Agents. That's
Right.
exactly the sort of like triple pump strategy
Right.
that we leverage to help people recruit the right agents for them. Okay.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
those are 3 quick strategies that everyone has the ability to do. Whether you use Hapy Grasshopper or you do this on your own, I'm going to recommend that you put together a recruitment blueprint. Now, a blueprint is something that you can just, if you're going to build a house, you need a plan, right? If you're going to build an organization, you need a plan. You've got to plan who is your target, how are you getting their information, what's your initial contact strategy, and what's your ongoing messaging strategy, and what's the end goal, right? So, if you've got good data, you can make good decisions. That's, my mentor, Billy Harris, taught me that years ago, and it's like a tattoo I don't have. If you have good data, you can make good decisions. And, one thing I'm really proud of is that we've been leveraging that data to help our members create really great results here. So
Hey, Dan,
I'm going to show you. Yep.
I like the fact that you built a blueprint, because could you speak just for a moment as far as it seems that the people that I know in the industry or in any industry that want to recruit, it's so much seat of their pants versus actually having a blueprint, having something systematic and methodical that can actually help them move forward. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I'll stop the screen share here to just look at the camera and have this chat with you for a moment, because that's a very superhuman thing to do. Like, we all do that with stuff in our lives. We all kind of dabble a little bit. It's the new year. Let's lose weight. Okay. We give it a half-hearted try or an effort. Let's recruit. Okay. Yeah, I'll talk to a few people. Oh, maybe it didn't go the way we wanted it to. And then we stop. Right? Anybody who's tried to do anything big is going to encounter some challenges along the way. I think we all accept that. And I call this cycle that we get trapped in the cycle of suck. So I'll teach this for everybody. It's really quick and simple. We start with intentions, whether it's losing weight, saving money, getting fit, recruiting people to our organization. We have those intentions. Then we take some actions. Yay, we're doing stuff. We're moving forward. And then inevitably, we encounter pain. There's going to be some amount of pain where, I called this agent and they hung up on me. And then they called my broker and complained that I was trying to recruit them. Like, ouch, you might not ever pick up the phone and talk to someone again if you have that experience. Like, maybe you recruited someone to your organization and they were the wrong fit. You tried so hard to get people to join. When that one said yes, you're like, yay, I got one. But that person was like human poison. And they just came in and made you miserable and cost you money and time. And you're just like, oh, I never want to do that again, right? So what do you do when you encounter that pain? You stop. You don't do it anymore because it hurts. Oh, I did sit-ups. It hurts. I'm going to take a couple of days off, and then I just don't get back to it, right? That's a very human thing to do. And what causes it is for it to repeat and repeat and repeat. Because if you are growing a team, if you are growing a brokerage, if you are expanding a real estate organization, you must be recruiting, and you must be recruiting all the time. That is not an option. So, what you do to really move forward here is you say, okay, I expect the pain, and I'm willing to be uncomfortable with that pain until I experience the breakthrough. You've got to accept that as the reality to get through it. And that allows you to walk a different path. We call it the path of mastery. And on that path, you start out with those expectations, right? But you don't do everything that you could do. You only take measured actions, right? That's the middle step. So
Yes.
a measured action, like if you're going to be accountable, you have to account, right? You have to add stuff up. You have to count it. And that's what we're talking about with measured actions. How many messages did you send? How many conversations did you actually have? How many messages do you need to send? And how many conversations do you need to have to create the desired result that you're looking for? That's a measured action. And the reason it's so important for it to be measured is because that allows you to move to where the money is. And that's in those predictable results. Okay. The predictable results are the thing that make the biggest difference. And I'll put the screen share back on because it's a good time to talk about some of those predictable results. So, we've been doing this now for like 11 years. So we know what has to happen to create and achieve specific goals. Like, talk about life-changing. Allison has built the kind of life for herself where she now spends about 6 months per year in Puerto Rico. Like, it's absolutely amazing what she's been able to create for herself. One of my favorite clients, Eric Pearson, love this guy. When he hired us, he was an agent at Remax, and he left to start his own brokerage. And here we are, 4 years later with 1,000+ agents. Like, that's amazing.
Those are some
It's
big,
absolutely amazing.
That's a huge number. 1,000 agents.
Yes.
That's 250 agents a year.
Right.
That is huge.
It is.
Holy
it
cow.
is. And he's just in Northern Virginia, right? It's not like he's everywhere. Another one of my favorite stories are these guys, Steve and Andy Clutch. I love them because they've got this legacy thing going on. It's father and son working together. Like that's exactly what I do. My son, Ben, works here with me at Happy Grasshopper.
Yeah.
It's like one of my greatest privileges to get to work with my son and to help him build his career. And, I don't know that I'll never want to retire again, but I can tell you for sure, I don't want to do it today. I'm not interested in that in the near term because I'm having so much fun helping people like you achieve your goals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Life has taught me whatever it is we want to achieve, the shortest path to achieving it lies through relationships, right?
Right.
So,
right.
when you look at every person you meet as an opportunity to build a real relationship, you never know where it's going to lead. Like, again, back to discovering and, our 6 degrees of separation are right across the hall. Like, that's amazing, right? That's amazing.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
So there's a lot of good stuff here that we covered in this session about recruitment. And I know that, many of you are going to have questions that I didn't get answered here. So I want to share with you some ways you can get those questions answered. And to do that, I'm going to share a different screen here with you. So this take just a moment. Alvin, has this popped up for you?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay. So, if you're watching this and you're thinking, oh, I really need help with recruitment, you can come to our website at happygrasshopper.com, click the big blue button that says recruitment, and you can schedule one of your own recruitment strategy sessions where we'll go through and we'll break down exactly what it is that you need to think about to achieve your goals. So I'm going to show you why this is broken out the way that it is. And we're going to talk about a few of these sections. So vision and goals is where we start. Like, there's no point saying I want to recruit. That's, equally as powerful as I want to lose weight.
Right.
Well, how much and by when? Like, let's get some detail there, right? And then we have to figure, okay, if that's our goal, is it realistic to achieve it? We got to figure that out. And the way that we do that is by examining TAM. TAM is total available market, right? So I don't know how many licensed agents are in your market in Rancho Cucamonga, Alvin, but you need to know that number, right? Whatever that number is, we're going to assume that about 20% of them are actually producing at a level where they could be a good fit for your criteria, right? So, in some markets, it's hundreds of people, and others, tens of thousands. If you want to recruit thousands of people in a market that doesn't have tens of thousands of agents, it's not realistic, right? So you want to make sure that your vision and goals can fit inside that total addressable market, okay? And then you have to take stock of where you are. Like, how many do you have and what's your average production? Because, if you've got a bunch of agents doing 2 and 3 transactions a year, and now all of a sudden you want to attract agents who are doing 15 to 20, well, those agents doing 15 to 20 are going to look at your brand and be like, I'm not sure why I would go there. Like, people don't produce there and I want to produce, right?
Right. Yeah. That
So,
makes sense.
you got to really think about, are you hosting the party people want to go to, right? The results of your current agents are going to help define that. Now, whether you have a bunch of agents you shouldn't have, and you need to reshuffle, or you're starting from scratch, you must have a clear image of your ideal recruit. Okay, so, like, who do you really like working with, Alvin? What sort of personality traits? What kind of production volume? What sort of things come to mind for you?
As far as for me, it comes to mind just people that I know it's used a lot, not self-motivators in and of itself. We all need encouragement, we all need help, but at least people that have the objective and have the desire to show up to work every day.
Yeah, goal-driven.
And want to be productive.
Purposeful.
Right.
Purposeful, productive. I like that. What about collaborative?
Yeah.
Is it important that they work well together?
Absolutely.
Collaborative.
And teachable. That's a huge one, being teachable.
Okay. All right. So, you get this whole long list of traits you'd like to have in your ideal recruit, and then you have to plant a flag around that. And I call these plant your flag values for a reason. Think about why we plant flags. It's so people at a distance know what we stand for. They know what we're going to fight and die over, right? So if you can get really clear about what issues are acceptable and not acceptable, what personality traits you want to attract and what ones aren't welcome, you can create some really compelling results. So I'll share with you our core values at Hapy Grasshopper. If I'm hiring you, if I'm interviewing you, the number one thing I'm looking for is evidence that you're thoughtful, right? And the reason for that is because I know myself. I hate micromanaging people. I'm not good at it. I don't like it. Thoughtful people require less micromanagement. They consider what other people's needs are. They consider what could go right and what could go wrong. And they tend to make great decisions without needing lots of support from me. So I love thoughtful people. Second is people who are intentional, right? And, the word you use, like goal-driven, purpose-driven, not necessarily having to do it themselves, but it's not like they're showing up waiting for you to feed them and tell you or be told what they need to do today. Right. I want intentional people like, Dan, I'll give you a couple of years of my life to learn what I can from you and move on. I'd much rather have that than someone who's like, well, I don't know. I just figured I'd work here till I figure out where I want to do with my life. Like, no, it's not okay. I want to help great people go on to do great things.
Right.
So, tenacity, consistency, positivity, open-minded, dependable. And there's one here that needs a little extra love, because in real estate, many of us are taught to fake it till we make it. And when I'm recruiting, I'll tell you, I'd rather have someone who's not faking it. Someone who could say, Dan, I need your help. I don't understand. How can I go from where I am to where I want to be? I'd much rather have someone who can be honest with themselves and therefore honest with me, because the idea that they'd be dishonest in a transaction is just like totally understood. Of course not. You can't even think about staying for a microsecond if you'd be dishonest with that. I want to go deeper and ask them to do the hard thing of being honest with themselves.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So, let's take these core values, let's bring them back to the plant your flag values, so that when you're interviewing someone and you see that they're not thoughtful, you can just go, okay, they're not my guy. That's all right. I can move on, comfortable. I'm looking for evidence of those things in every person that I interview. And, being able to do that is what allows brands to become extraordinary, because the people you work with are the brand. They absolutely are. Having name recognition and a logo is great, but it's not as great as people who really are amazing.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I know from 11 years serving the real estate profession that there's a huge variety of great brands that people could choose to participate in. There are fewer truly amazing people, right?
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
like kind of a closing thought here is I'm asking you to do the hard work of rising to the occasion of being a person worthy of following, right? That requires you to say, how can I up my game? How can I be better? If I'm going to attract these really great people, I have to earn that. Leadership is a privilege that you earn. People are giving you a portion of their lives, the most precious thing that they have. They're investing in you when you're asking them to join you. So, I'll encourage you to take that seriously and continue to work on yourselves. Now,
I love that.
if I can help you with that personally, I'm more than happy to. Again, just go to happygrasshopper.com, click that blue button, and you can schedule a call with myself or one of my staff. That's just kind of my gift back to the LCA community. So, no selly sell here today, right? This is all, let's just teach the good stuff. So,
absolutely.
I would love to hang out and answer some questions. I know we've got a few minutes here before the top of the hour, so we'll be watching for those to come in.
Is there some things that you guys struggle with right now in whatever capacity you're in? Post those questions there. Dan would be more than happy to answer. So we're looking here to see if there's, I know sometimes we're afraid to ask a question. It might sound silly, but your question may help somebody else that's in this chat.
Well, I think that, we've all been that quiet kid at the back of the class afraid to raise their hand, right?
Right.
And, I'll also say that some of the questions you have, I probably know already because they've been asked before, right? One of the most common questions I get is, well, how do I get lists? Like, where do I find this information? And depending where you are that you're watching this, that answer can vary. You may be able to pull them from your MLS. You may be able to use a service like Brokermetrics or Market View Broker or Realytics. There's lots of ways to get that information. In fact, if you've got a great relationship with the title company, they can probably provide that information for you too. So agent information is out there. It's not really difficult to get a hold of. Another question I often get is, well, email, like you mentioned email. Why are you sending email? It's 2022. And I would say just Google highest ROI in marketing and you'll know why. There's a few things that we have to understand with email. One is we've all received so much email over the course of our lives that if it even smells like marketing, they're going to ignore it. The way you check your email is the same way everybody checks their email. We're all in there going, what do we have to pay attention to? What's important here? And if it looks like a nice, pretty HTML art project, it looks like marketing. So it's safe to ignore, right?
Yeah.
If it looks like Alvin took the time to write you an email, it's not safe to ignore, especially if he's asking you about an industry issue or congratulating you for your performance in the market, right? Social mores you were raised with say, well, gosh, he just congratulated me. What should I do? I should say, thank you. Appreciate that. Right. Now there's a connection where before there was only a contact. Like we've got to create the connection to create the result. And, where do relationships live? They live inside conversation. And why is conversation special? Well, because guess what? That's where we solve all our clients' problems on the way to closing. It's also where we fall in love. It's also where we raise our children, right?
Yeah,
it's also where we solve all the problems of the world. The conversation is hugely important. And conversation gets started by asking questions. So, to boil this whole strategy down, it's about positioning you appropriately and asking questions that allow you to understand whether the person answering them could be a good fit for you or not.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
So conceptually, it's simple. Executing it is a bit complicated. So again, if you need my help with that, I'm here. Happy to serve.
Well, Dan, I want to thank you so much. I know I wrote down some notes here for myself, some good stuff in here just for myself, and that I want to share with some people here just in my own office as well. This is being recorded. It will be up on our LabCoats YouTube channel. Please go there. You can get a refresher there. Dan, look forward to seeing you again. Let's see if we can do another webinar.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Topic. I'd love to do that. And
I love it.
Looking down here. Thank you, Dan. Great nuggets.
Thank you, Ruby. That's very kind. You know what? I feel so privileged right now because my life has led me some pretty special places. And I spoke in Salt Lake City 2 weeks ago. I was in Orlando yesterday. I'm headed to Vegas for the Better Homes and Gardens conference. I've got event after event after event stacked up, teaching things I love and am passionate about. So, if you see me out on the road, please stop and say hi. And, I'll certainly thank you, Alvin. Loving the geek metaphors. Yeah, I have a lot of those in here. But, anyway, I appreciate your time, everybody. And I'll be back for another LCA webinar soon. So have a great day. Thanks, Alvin.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And we will see you soon.
All right. Bye, everybody.